Lesson 1.1, Video 2. Sketch the graph of each line by making a table of values. And they are going to give us the tables that they want us to plug in. So, we'll plug in a -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, and 3. And what we're going to do is take those values and plug it into our equation, and what we get out of it after we do the calculations will be our y value. So the first question has -3 times x, which we are going to call -3. That's our first one we're going to plug in. And then we'll add 4. That gives us a +9 plus 4, which in turn then is 13, and that goes into our y column. If we did that for every number, we would get 13, 10, 7. If we plug a 0 in, we get 4, 1, -2, and -5. Now one observation here, when you plug a 0 in, you get y equals -3 times 0 plus 4, and anything times 0 is 0, so we end up with y equals 4. Now that's important because we're going to talk about intercepts later on in a different lesson. So this is called the y-intercept. And at the y-intercept, the x value is 0. So to graph this, we'd plot our points, and our first point that would fit on our graph would be -2, 10, and then -1, 7. Our y-intercept would be 4, and then 1, 1, 2, -2, and 3, -5. And if drawn properly, you will have, when connecting the dots, you'll get a straight line. And we can graph anything with a table, linear and nonlinear alike. We're just focusing on linear equations at this time. So when it comes to graphing with the table is very effective. Maybe not efficient, but effective. On our next one, if we plot in the same points, which would be -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, and 3. Here we have a fraction, so a little bit more mathematical savvy on this one. Plug in a -3, and you will very likely have decimals when you're dealing with fractions, so you have to kind of get used to it. In this particular case, when we take 2/3 times -3, it's -3 over 1, so it's top times top, which gives us a -6. Bottom number times bottom number gives us 3, and -2. And -6 divided by 3 is a -2, -2, we end up with a -4. Now, not all of them will work out that nicely. For example, when I plug in a -2, we're going to get -3 and 1/3. And you can write it as a decimal if you like. -1 gives us -2 and 2/3. And then 0 gives us -2. Again, that's going to be the y-intercept, because that whole slope and x cancel out when you plug a 0 in. 1 gives us, and then I'm going to write decimals here to show you what is considered okay. This is -1 and 1/3, but it's reduced to 0.3 repeating. 2 gives us a -0.6 repeating, and then again 3 is 0. So if we graph those, we have -3, -4, and we have now approximations from this point on. -2 gives us -3 and 1/3. -1 gives us -2 and 2/3. 0 gives us -2, that's our y-intercept. 1 is -1 and 1/3. 2 is -2/3. And then 3 is 0. That happens to be also the x-intercept. And that's something, again, when we deal with intercepts, it will have greater value for us. But these two are called intercepts. And when we put them together, we have a line. And this ends Lesson 1.1, Video 2.